From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building dreams with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best. Take the prize.
Battlefield to the boardroom. This is Dog Tags to Ownership, the podcast where veterans share their journeys from serving our nation to leading in business. Hear inspiring stories of grit, growth, and the entrepreneurial spirit that drives those who serve to succeed. Tune in and take the first step toward your own mission in entrepreneurship.
Military One Percenters, welcome to Dog Tags to Ownership, where once a week we interview veterans who charted a path towards entrepreneurship. Our goals are to share resources, advice, and success stories about starting a business, discuss strategies for building financial independence and creating your own path, and most importantly, build a community to support each other through the challenges of transitioning from service life to civilian ownership. As to the show today, Christopher Mckinney, a retired U.S. military veteran with 21 years of service and the founder of OpSynergy, a project management consulting firm that helps veterans and government professionals turn leadership into lasting impact. Christopher, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for joining us today to discuss your journey from dog tags to ownership. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. Quite excited. Much appreciate you taking the time to have me.
You reached out to us, and it was pretty cool because then we went and looked at your website and stuff. I think having you on to talk about project management consulting is going to be great for our listeners and followers because there's a lot of people in the military that want to get their PMPs and don't necessarily understand how to do that, or some of the services that are available to be able to get their PMP to really help them once they get out of the military. But to start off, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your military service?
Sure. Yeah. 21 and a half years, just an old tanker, armor guy. I'll tell you a funny story was I was going to retire. And then right at that time, I was the senior instructor at the Armor Advanced Leadership course. And then right at that time, COVID hit. And I didn't know if we were all going to be zombies a year later. I didn't know what was going on. And so I pulled my retirement. Luckily, I was able to get it back in time, was able to stop it before it went all the way up the chain, and ended up doing another year and a half, which really worked in my favor because, things work out for a reason, I guess. I wouldn't have landed where I'm at now had I not done that extra year and a half, because that's the year and a half that I used to get my project management professional certification. It's what helped me, get into the role that I'm in now. And so it all really worked out pretty good.
Can you then talk about your decision to retire? I know you said you pulled it back because of COVID and all of that, but what led your decision to retire? And then just what were as you talked about, you were able to get your PMP prior to retirement, but what were some of the other things that you leveraged during your transition to help you now with what you're doing?
Yeah. So the decision to retire, I'll be honest with it. For me, it was an easy one. It wasn't a hard one for me. I was kind of ready. 21 and a half years. I thought about staying in. So just full transparency, I retired as an E7. I thought about staying in and continuing my journey to make E8 and so on and so forth. And I talked to my wife about it, but we both decided it was best for me to go ahead and call it. No point in prolonging it. So it was actually a pretty easy decision. And then what led me to get the PMP was mentorship. My mentors in the Army. So I had a few mentors, two specific, and one of them, I'll go ahead and give him a shout out, was First Sergeant Springer. He's retired now as well. He said, man, you got to get your PMP before you get out of the Army. I said, why? I'm Lean Six Sigma. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Lean Six Sigma, but I said, I'm Lean Six Sigma. What else do I need? He said, get your PMP. I said, okay, tell me to get it. I'm going to get it. And so I'll be honest with you. It was it was the hardest thing mentally wise, like studying wise, that I've ever done. It was harder than anything I ever did in college, to include statistics, and I hated statistics. But it was tough. But it's one of those certifications that carries weight for a reason. And once you get it, the burden's been lifted and you have it. Now, the studying's it's done, it's through, it's over with, and it feels like a lifetime when you're in it, having to do all that studying. But then once you finally get it, you're good. But I got the PMP, and then August 1st of 2022, I started terminal leave. And August 8th of 2022, while still on terminal leave, I started working for an organization as a project manager. I quickly went from a project manager to a program manager, which is a program manager manages multiple projects. So I went from managing single projects to multiple individual projects, and then kind of went on from there. I became a quality manager and a compliance manager. And so I did it all for a little bit within the same company. And then I got to thinking about portrays there to be, meaning, when I went through my transition period, basically the jobs that were presented to me were, truck driver, welder, stuff like that, which are all great jobs. And I'm not taking anything from those jobs. I just would like veterans to also know that there are other jobs than just trade jobs out there for us when we retire. And it doesn't matter, or when you just, transition after you did 4 years. And that's what's great about the PMP. It doesn't matter if you did 4 years and got out of the Army as the E4, or if you did 25 years and got out of the Army as a command sergeant major. It really doesn't when it comes to project management. And that's what's so neat about it. Well, so I used Army Ignited, the credentialing assistance.
So other than your mentor and former first sergeant kind of directing you towards PMP, did that ever come up again in the transition process, or was it not something that was covered by TAP?
I'll be honest with you, at the time, according to my wife, I looked cool as a cucumber. I have a pretty good knack for remaining calm on the outside, but as ready as I was to retire, on the inside, I was really stressing. I was like, is this going to be the right thing? I can get fired now. Like, this isn't the military anymore. Am I going to get a job? Like, what, And so I would say about 8 months before I started terminal leave, I started filling out applications. I made sure that I had all my financials in order, my savings accounts, and everything was good. I'm going to be fully transparent there. My wife, she's good with the money, and so she made sure all that was good. We had a backup in case I couldn't get a job, but thankfully for me, because I was proactive, a month before I even started terminal leave, I had a job offer. And that's how, and I feel like being proactive is really going to eliminate a lot of that stress that we feel when we retire. Because if you put things off to the last minute, you're going to compound on that stress, because of course you're putting it all off to the last minute. But if you just be proactive and you do your best, and you make sure to get whatever certification that it is that you need, whatever field you want to go to, and then start applying for jobs like 8 months before you get out, it really alleviates a lot of that stress. Yeah, it was nobody I knew. It was what is now a civilian mentor for me, Mr. Tony Lee. He took a chance on me. He saw my resume.
And how did that job come about? Was that someone you knew, or did that help with, or was it purely just your experience in the PMP background?
He took a chance on me. He liked my resume. He sat down with me. He liked the way I interviewed. And, almost 3 years later, it worked out great. He's becoming just the best mentor somebody could ask for, I think. And it's been good.
I know that you had talked about when you and I spoke, when your first thought when you were getting out was going to do public speaking, those types of things. And then COVID hit.
Yeah, so it's kind of two-part. That takes us back to when I was explaining. I don't think veterans are really presented with all of the options out there for them. I think the military tries to do a good job, and I want to give them full credit for that. They do. They really try, but I just don't think it's all presented. And so it's kind of twofold. I started teaching the PMP for another organization. And then about 2 years into that, I said to myself, I work for them. I can do this myself. I'm teaching it. So I'll just create my own, and I'm going to cater it towards veterans, because I want veterans to know that there are other options, especially the PMP for when they transition. And so it started with a small thought of wanting to help veterans. And I know that's so cliche. I get it, but it's the honest truth. And so it started with that small thought. And then The original mindset of the company was just to teach project management. However, because I teach it and I know it and I know this stuff like the back of my hand, I said, well, I could consult for this stuff too. And so I kind of started putting some feelers out there, and I landed a couple of consulting opportunities where other people asked me to come in and help them with their project management and needed some advice and guidance. And so that kind of made the organization very quickly two parts. One part is project management consulting, and the other part is PMP training, really tailored towards veterans. Of course, I'll accept anybody that wants to come to my PMP training. I have a page that's just for civilians, and civilian pricing and the normal what you would see normally. But then I also have a page specifically dedicated for veterans that can use their Army Ignited funds, or if they don't have any more funds, I offer like a pretty large discount to try and make it affordable for veterans. And that way, even if they're out of their Army Ignited funds, hopefully it's still affordable for them. They're not paying the full PMP bootcamp price.
How'd you find out about it?
How did I come across Army Ignited in the military or with my organization currently? I was where I ended up retiring out of. So when I ended up doing an extra year, I went to another organization in the Army as a platoon sergeant. And so I told all of my, want you to use your Army Ignited funds. Like, don't waste it. Now when I was at the academy, I told all of my students, every single one of them, use your Army Ignited funds. But I don't know if they listened to me. I didn't have as much, command and control over them as I did in a platoon setting. And I could really stress, hey, I want you guys to go to college. Like, I need you guys, don't be like me. I waited till my last 4 years in the military and then had to cram to get my bachelor's degree. You guys have the time now, do it. Use your Army Ignited funds. Get a certification, go to college, use it. Like, don't just let it go to waste, because I feel like that's a huge problem. Soldiers, they get lazy, and you can't knock them for it. Their job is hard, and I just feel like if someone pushes them, they'll be thankful for it in the end. Because that's what happened to me. Somebody pushed me, and I was thankful for it once I got my degree, and then once I got the PMP. And so I try to pay that forward and really like say, hey, come on, guys and gals, use this money. It's there for you. Use it.
Can you talk about how you set up OpSynergy?
Yeah, for sure. So it's actually quite a lengthy process to get into Army Ignited. One, you have to be proven. So you have to be in business for at least 2 years. So I started OpSynergy, luckily, with just a small idea at the time 2 years ago. Had no idea what it would really equate to. But so luckily 2 years ago I started it, and you have to be in business for 2 years. You have to be an authorized training partner. So I am a Project Management Institute PMI authorized training partner. And you have to have what's called this is getting probably in depth, what's called a cage code from sam.gov. Sam.gov is, I don't know if anybody's ever seen that movie War Dogs. I think that's the name of it, where, they just bid on government contracts. That's like a real thing. It's like anybody can go on sam.gov and just like bid on these contracts. It's kind of neat. But sam.gov also gives you what's called a cage code. And it's basically an identifier saying that, yes, we as the government recognize this entity. And then I went and I got my service disabled veteran owned small business license, because 21 and a half years retired, I was able to get disability. And so I'm able to also tack that on to my business. The Army calls it Army Ignited, but each branch, so Army Ignited is covered by Army Cool, COOL, it's credentialing opportunity. Each branch has their own cool system. So Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard even, all have their own cool system. And each cool is ran different though. For instance, the Air Force, they get a one lifetime $4,500. That's it. Every year you get $2,000, but I think with the Army now you're only allowed to use it 3 times, so you end up getting $6,000, right? With the Air Force, it's $4,500. That's it, lifetime. Once you use it, you're done. And with the Air Force, I think you have to be an E4 with so many years left. Whereas in the Army, you could get out of basic training and you could use your TA or your CA almost immediately, which is really neat. And then the Marines, They're the worst. I think they only get like $2,000 for the life of the contract. But hey, it's all there. All branches have their own cool system, which is really neat. So I don't cater just towards the Army, and that's what I've been trying to figure out how to do is talk to these other branches, because it's surely easy for me here being on Benning. I can just go to SFL tap and I can say, hey, can I talk to the soldiers? One of my good buddies, he coached Little League baseball with me. He's the brigade commander at one of the basic training units. I can, and I talk to him and I say, hey, can I talk to all your privates? He's like, come on, like drill sergeants need some time to relax. We'll give you an hour. And so I have a plethora of people that I can speak with within the Army, but how I'm going to reach out to Air Force, Navy, Marines, because we're all in the same boat together, no matter how you look at it. That's what I've been trying to figure out, is how to reach out to the other branches lately. Yeah. So just to clarify, I'm not bidding on any contracts, right? I'm trying to reach out to individuals within the military to come and use their credentialing assistance to get their project management professional certification. Now, bidding on contracts is something completely different. That's in a whole nother realm that I have actually thought about possibly diving into. However, that opens up a huge can of worms, because what I do other than teach the PMP, and what I started doing as soon as I got out of the Army was GovCon. I was a project manager and program manager for government contracts. So I am very well versed in how government contracting works. And so with that, I also know when it comes to bidding on contracts, the hassle that can come with it. And do I really want that at this stage? No, but maybe in the future I might.
Kids or grown kids or young kids?
We were talking the transition. What made it so easy at the time was 4. And because his whole life I have been on Fort Benning. And so I've been in trade op. And so he doesn't know dad deployed like my daughter does. She knows dad gone. She knows dad, I get to see him when I get to see him. But my youngest, he didn't know that life. And so we didn't, it was really easy to come to the conclusion where we didn't want him to.
That was very similar to my decision when I was sitting in the Pentagon and we had just had our first child, and I was like, I don't want the move every 2 years, 1 year, especially as you continue on through the ranks. It seems like you're moving more frequently than when you were coming up. So I came to the similar conclusion.
Oh,
Have you reached out to, gone, because there's an Air Force base near there. Have you gone to that Air Force base to reach out to them, or is that something that you're thinking about, to do the same thing that you do with TAPS, at Fort Benning?
yeah, it's 100% something that I'm thinking about, and it is something that I have planned on down the line. I have, my 50-meter targets that I really need to take care of first, and then I have my 100-meter targets. That's one of my 100-meter targets. I know that there's an Air Force base right outside Fort Stewart. That's about Fort Stewart's about 4 hours from me, around the Hinesville, Savannah, Georgia area, and so that's not too bad of a drive, and that's Air Force. Navy, I'm not sure. I'll have to find the closest installation, but I'm in all of their cool systems. Now I just have to get them to know that I exist.
Yeah, and I think there is an Air Force base about an hour and a half from you, actually, in Alabama. So we were down at Benning. My wife was stationed down there, and we had a good friend who's Air Force, and she would travel from Columbus to the Air Force base. It's in Alabama somewhere. I can't remember what it's called, but there is a pretty big Air Force base down there. Look it up. Maybe something you could go to down there as well.
Yeah, no, you're 100%. You're 100% correct. It's in Montgomery, Alabama, right outside Prattville, Alabama. Yeah, yeah. I think it's called Andrews Air Force Base. That might be it. But I know exactly. It's in Montgomery, Alabama. Yeah, and that's about an hour and a half from me. You are correct. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to go down there and see if I can't talk to their SFL tap or whatever it is the Air Force calls it. So I don't know if you went and got a look at my website, but My website, everything from registering my entity to my website to promotion, like I did it all of myself. Having zero idea about web development. I went in knowing nothing about web dev, and I did all. It took me probably about 6 months working. I mean, every single day, just working nonstop. And I was able. I built that website, registered my entity. I did it all self-made, as they say. I didn't pay a single person to help me. And there were some pains, right? Some stuff I'd have paid somebody. They probably could have figured it out in 10 minutes, whereas it took me 2 days of trying to get it done. But hey, now that, once you figure one part out, now it'll only take you 2 minutes the next time. But no, I did every single bit of it by myself, which was kind of neat. And it's just one of those things where I tell everybody, you don't need a ton of money. Yeah. I think when people think about starting businesses, now there are some expenses involved. Let's just be honest. Like there's a few expenses involved, but nothing, if you do it all yourself and you take the time, nothing that's going to come anywhere close to breaking the bank. Like I think it cost me $25 like a year for my domain for OpSynergy .net. That's like $25 a year. And I think the web page itself, I'm going through WordPress and I'm using Power Elementor in WordPress, and I think that cost me $125. And so nothing is going to really be so outrageous that it's not doable unless you start paying people to help you. Now, if you're like me and you just said, all right, I'm gonna figure this out. And then, thanks to Chat GPT, I remember the days of having to go to Google and like trying to search something and then read forums. And boy, Chat GPT sure does make it easy for us though. I was able to do it all myself at minimal cost, right? And so I created an entire brand, an entire business at really honestly minimal, very minimal cost. Now that does come with the very cliche, people say you have to work harder than everybody else. And I hate to say it really is true, but if you do, so many successful people say that, that it gets washed out. Like, okay, I get it. You have to work hard. So many successful people say it that people really start to not even hear it, but it is 100% true. If you honestly sit down, you have one goal and one goal only, and you work towards that goal, you put everything you have towards that goal and you can start your own business, and you will at times feel overwhelmed. You're not going to know where to start. You're not going to know what to do. And that is fine. I've been there. I still get there half the time. I'm like, what do I do now? Well, you know what? I sit at my computer and I just start working on something, and then that clicks a light. Oh, I need to do this. And then that will, kickstart me on to the next task. So I hate to say it, but man, if you just work your butt off, you could start your own business. You could find a niche that people need, like government contracts and project management, two things that I am intimately familiar with, right? I found that niche. And now I started my own business, and now I can promote myself, and now I can come on podcasts like your guys' podcast, and I can talk about it, and I can tell all of these soldiers and airmen and Marines and everybody in the Navy and the Coast Guard that it's not insurmountable. Even though it may seem like it at first, it is not insurmountable in the least bit. It just really does take a lot of dedication and hard work.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, you bring up some incredible points. Low overhead is an aspect, right? There's businesses like consulting and training, like you're doing startups. So it doesn't have to be something that someone's going to drown in credit card debt trying to get the business lifted off the ground. So I think those that are a little bit less risk averse, maybe go into an area again that has lower startup costs and lower risks if you do, trip, stumble, fall initially, right? So you're not having to dig out of a hole for years per se. I love that, it's rolling up your sleeves in front of the computer, in this case, building your own website. I myself am in the real estate side. But, I was telling Julie before we got started, I'm over at my real estate properties, like literally removing trees and, cleaning up landscape.
Those trees down yourself and, mowing the lawn yourself and doing all that, it shows grit. And it does, like you said, it's going to help with a lot of that cost for you to buy your next property. Hopefully eventually you get to where you're not having to do that. I mean, let's be honest, the long-term goal is to make money. Just being honest. That's the long-term goal that everybody wants. People might not say it, right? They might say they have all these intentions and they might like sugarcoat it, but we all want to make money, right? The thing is, can you make money doing what you enjoy doing? That's the thing. And so when you're retiring or you're transitioning, you just have to like ask, what is it that I thoroughly enjoy doing? And whatever that is, you can make money doing that. You just have to find a way, either work harder or be better than everybody else at it.
Yeah, and I just wanna go on one point because at the beginning you mentioned you wanna help veterans, and it was cliche that you said that, but I don't think it is cliche. I think for a lot of us who are retiring, getting out of the military, we still have that bond to the veteran community, and we wanna still be able to give back the the place that we served for so long and the place that's, part of us, made us who we are today. So, Matt and I started this podcast to help build a community for veterans to get into entrepreneurship, and military members to get into it. And, just going back to your point on doing everything yourself to be able to build that money and stuff, we do the same thing with the podcast, right? Like we could have hired an editor or producer or anything like that, but we do it all. I do all the editing, all the stuff. We built the website ourselves, all the social media content. So it just goes back to what you're saying. Like you roll up your sleeves and you get things done eventually, that stuff comes and it takes time to grow it, but you get there and that's what's important for all of us and still giving back to our communities. Christopher, could you talk about, where you see your business in the next 5 to 10 years and then any lessons learned that you have for folks who want to get into entrepreneurship and business ownership that you've learned over these past few years as you build out your business?
Yeah, sure. So where I see my business in the next 5 to 10 years is honestly where I'm at right now, like exactly where I am right now, only hopefully a little more successful. There's still some marketing I need to do. There's still some branding that I need to do. And I have a few clients that are already starting to get the word out. And that's where it's important. You do a good job for one person. That one person is going to tell somebody else that you did a good job. Right. And so it's all about that networking, finding that first, person to do something good for, even if sometimes it needs to be free. That's fine. And when it comes to networking and building your brand and building your business, doing something pro bono shouldn't be beneath you in the very beginning, right? And that's totally okay. But then once you get a solid footing, then we need to start charging for what we do, right? But so no, I see it right where it is now, only hopefully a little more successful, hopefully a more common name within both the military and GovCon sector. I would really like for people to hear OpSynergy and they hear it the same as they hear Lockheed Martin or Raytheon. That's the big plan and the big goal. And any type of lessons learned, man, I would say if I could just be 100% honest, I would say my first 14 years in the military, I was a dirtbag. I'm just gonna be truly honest. Like I look back at my military career and I just wish that I could have got it together a little faster, right? And so the lesson learned, what I'm saying is it's never too late, right? It really is not too late to get your stuff together. I struggled with alcohol for my first 14 years in the military. I was an alcoholic, right? And wasn't probably the best NCO at the time and the best soldier. But hey, I got the help that I needed. I mainly through my wife, if I'm going to be honest with you. She was my support structure, kicked it, and then I really got my stuff together. And so it's never too late, right? If you're 5 years in, if you're 15 years in, it's never too late. If you think you could do better, it is never too late to start doing better, like right now. And then, once that happened, it really kind of kicked off me getting the PMP, and it really kicked off me getting that first job, which kicked off me getting the experience I needed to start my own business and so on and so forth. So I don't know if that's a real lesson learned that you were looking for, but hey, that's what you got.
Well, I mean, I love the vulnerability on it. We've had guests, talk about, those personal challenges and how they've overcome that adversity, personal or professional. It's so good for listeners to hear those success stories. So I didn't quite have that level of challenge, but I think for a long time in the military, it was just the military. there was just blinders. And it took someone in my, couple assignments ago to talk about something besides military success for to civilian life. So it's great that you found a passion through, project management and turned that obviously into a successful business. We'll get into our final two questions, but that's okay with you. I listen to a lot of real estate focused audiobooks, podcasts, read those types of books or literature. What do you listen to? What do you read? What would you recommend to our listener?
Yeah, well, I would say definitely in terms of transition, it is vitally important, I think, to get a mentor, somebody that has transitioned, and specifically a successful mentor. And by successful, I don't mean somebody that's started their own business and rich now or anything like that. Somebody that transitioned and is still doing well, right? They did the process, they were able to get a job, and they're doing well. I think that's vitally important when it comes to transitioning. And if you don't have a mentor, then cling on to one of those civilians at SFL TAP or whatever the other branches call it when you transition and they help you. Ask them questions. I mean, it is vitally important. Ask away. They're there for you. And if you do have a mentor, that mentor should be there for you. Ask away, because there's a lot of questions when I was getting out of the military that if I didn't have a mentor, I probably would have been, lost in the sauce. And so thankfully I had that mentor to help me out. And so I would say, one, definitely get a mentor. Two, in terms of any type of reading or what you should listen to, if you're in that transition phase, or even if you're not, I hate to say it, it's never too early to start thinking about planning for the future, right? Listen to podcasts like this, or go on forums and read other people's success or possibly failure stories, because oftentimes we can use those failure stories as lessons learned. And hear about, how other people was able to make the transition. Not everybody wants to start their own business, and that's fine. If you don't want to start your own business, but you want to go into a certain, niche department like IT, and specifically like web dev of IT, right? Just start going to forums where other soldiers have retired or transitioned out of the military, and that's what they did. Those places are out there. They're everywhere. All you got to do is find them. Usually quick Google searches will take you right to them.
I get to read her final question that she asked listeners.
Don't
Question for you, Christopher, is do you make your bed?
I inherently make it. I've always, I do make my bed every day. Yes, the 9-year-old makes the bed as well. The 9-year-old makes the bed. Yeah, the 1-year-old not so much yet, but he will be. Yeah. I guess I would like to hit on one quick topic, if that's okay. And if there's not room for this, that's fine. But something that just kind of dawned on me is, I think it's important for people to understand that the people who are the most successful that I have seen, me personally, on their transition from the military are the people who were able to disassociate military to civilian. The people who I have seen struggle the most are those 25-year command sergeant majors, 30-year command sergeant majors, or 30-year lieutenant colonels. And they get out of the military and they talk to people and they interview and they do things the same way as they did in the military. I don't know if it's because they think it's appropriate or cool, or they want people to know I'm not sure the reasoning behind it, but what I have seen is the people who can disassociate and they can take all their military discipline. Don't let that go. Keep it. But just remember, now you're a civilian. Those people are the ones that I see do the best. And that's just what I've seen personally.
No, that hits home. Like, I went to college before I came into the military. So, there was life certainly before the military. And the military, while I thoroughly enjoyed it and I loved working with the people I worked with and the soldiers I deployed with, there was always a part of me that was still just Matt Kane, who never got caught up in, tried to stay humble and grounded. So when my uniform came off about a month ago, and will hopefully permanently stay off, It was not a super emotional, life-changing experience for me. I just kind of continued in stride with what I've been doing outside the military. But I think that's why it's so important to have a plan as you near the end so you can, step in sync into PMP or into real estate or into some other endeavor and not feel entirely rushed to take the next best thing, I guess, the first offer. So I know we'll wrap because I know we're at about an hour. I just want to say thanks for reaching out and submitted, to come on the podcast. And again, you could see your authenticity through that email and the transparency. And I was really looking
I
forward.
just so happened to run across it. I was kind of like when you said, what do you listen to? I just typed in transitioning military, and I happened to run across your guys' podcast, and I was like, oh man, I'd love to be on their podcast. That'd be great. That's how I ran across you guys, and hopefully, anybody else that is transitioning and maybe not hearing this exact episode, but hopefully that's how they can run across you guys, through word of mouth, through just transitioning. Somebody types in transitioning military and you guys come up and just keep doing what you're doing, because the podcasts that I've listened to thus far are all great. And I think it's really, really neat that you guys are doing it. And I hope you keep it up. I think you're going to do outstanding. And I think you guys are going to do great things. And a year from now, I'd love to be back.
But yeah, come back on and let's catch up. And I know Julia put a link to where listeners can find you on our website.
Military one percenters, whether you're brainstorming your first business idea, already running a company, or just curious about where to start, DogTags Ownership is the place for you. Please hit that subscribe button to receive all new episodes. Also, if you know someone who has turned their dog tags into ownership, drop us a DM on social media or tag someone. We are always looking for new guests to bring onto the podcast. As always, Military one percenters, thank you for your service. Let's continue this journey and working together to write our next chapter. Until next week, keep pushing to turn those dog tags into ownership.
From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building trains with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best.